Hey y'all. Okay, so wanted to share with you a little discussion I was just having with a client. Obviously not with any personal details. It's more of a policy issue or definitely a strong recommendation that I give my clients, and so I want to reiterate it for you. My client and I are chatting on it's a messaging system through our firm portal. Great portal. Sometimes it gets a little pricey when they raise the prices, but it's so good. There's messaging. I can text from there from a special texting number. That's not the public phone number available to every, Tom, Dick, and Harry, in which case you get, 5 million texts a day and requests to, hey, can you just call me? I got a couple questions, which obviously I don't have minutes in the day to do. I have to do them with my clients or with consultation folks. But anyway, it's a great little thing. And that texting thing is great. Although this particular interaction was by message this morning. Well, actually, it looks like it started yesterday. It'll be back and forth. It's like a thread. And you can always start a new message. So it's pretty awesome. And you can upload and download documents from there. And that's how we send all documents to our clients. Okay, so this question concerned having a provider. And the question was, let's say it's a mental health provider. And the question was, and I hear this a lot, particularly from non-clients. This is a new client. And it's about, hey, should I, meaning the client, be sending my therapist a mental RFC form? I have videos, at least one anyway, on this. I'm going to try to zip it up into the description, or attach it at the end, maybe, whichever way. I don't know. But that would be a big flat no. No. There's a multitude of reasons, not the least of which is the first being, you do not know, unless you have reason to know, overt reason to know, if your provider is a supporter of filing for Social Security Disability or SSI. Sad to say, but many are not. There are people who have biases, and often they're ignorant of the law. So let me give you an example. A therapist who feels they're doing a very good job for their client, and they might very well be, might be of the opinion, why should he be filing for disability? He's coming along great. And, there might be a job out there he could do, or he's going to soon, or he needs therapy and he's not 100% feeling comfortable all the time. Maybe it's an anxiety thing, but that's not disabling. He could do a job, maybe not with the public or something. So that's the perspective of the therapist or the psychiatrist. It could be an MD or a DO, because that person has not seen potentially the rest of the medical records. I mean, in many cases, many cases, particularly the over 50 crowd, you're not going to be needing to be a complete unproductive, dysfunctional person based on mental health limitations. I mean, everyone's got limitations, mental health. And I don't even want to call it mental health. I want to call it our own little character traits, our personality traits, our proclivities, our inclinations, our things we like and don't like to do from a mental, emotional point of view. All of us, every single person on the face of the earth, perhaps not a teeny tiny kid yet, but everything else, I got this. We all do. At what level does it rise to being a disorder, a mental health disorder? That's a whole nother thing. And sometimes people go to life coaches or just hash things out with friends or loved one, and they decide whether they want to change that proclivity they have, work on it, desensitize themselves to it, whatever, or not. So when you're relying on a mental health limitation, particularly again for the over 50 crowd, because the under 50 crowd's got a whole different set of rules to follow in a certain way. You don't need to prove that you are on the verge of being institutionalized. You can literally have just like, our memories are not as great when we're, getting older. We might not be able to learn a job such as brain surgery or go through medical school. Maybe we could have when we were younger, but we couldn't now. Maybe you know, we worry a little bit too much at night, so we're a little tired. We have poor concentration during the day, so we're not going to be as quick with mental tasks as we might be, but we still get them done, right? We just learn how to negotiate those things. The proof of that reduced concentration, that, you know, it could be kind of mild, but remember, at that older age, if that reduced concentration would eliminate our ability to do our prior job that we're still held accountable for, let's say it's high-end accounting with strict deadlines where you know, tax time, you're pulling hours like, you know, I don't know how some of you guys got to be accountants. How many hours do you pull tax time? Is it like 20? Are you losing sleep? You know, is it trying to get those things in on time? I'm guessing there's some like that. And I think for those that aren't, it's still probably very arduous. You still have a, you know, if you work for yourself, you got to meet all your clients' needs. If you work for an accounting firm, you've got to pull your weight with all those tasks they've given you and all those client projects. So you have deadlines, very strict, very fast, and it's very high-end thinking stuff. So it's not like an assembly line in a factory where you don't really have to think and you just keep doing. With accounting, and of course a gazillion other high-end professional, you know, avenues, you have to be able to be high thinking for the full 8 hours. And of course, at that point, it's going to be more than 8 hours. So a little bit of a concentration issue can make you not be able to perform that job competently. You're still a rocket scientist. You just can't use it for that occupation. Maybe you could be a little bookkeeper somewhere. But you know what I'm saying? So for the over 50 crowd, when the big thing is that can be very case deciding is whether you can do that prior job. That is where that minor concentration issue is very important to get documented via medically addressing it, therapy, mentioning it to your PCP all the time. And that's if it's mild. Of course, if it's more severe than that, you're going to really want to bang it home for your own good. See if there's a way to get that improved or slow it down or whatever. So going back to it, the therapists that we're treating with who may have biases or may just be ignorant of the fact that that person also is limited to a sedentary job due to a sciatica or bad back or a vertigo or something, but they're not treating him for that. And so they're not really addressing that. That's not even in the front of their mind if they know about it at all. So asking them without knowing certain things about that therapist is a mistake because of the bias or the lack of full information. This is also true, by the way, for physical doctors across the board. Now, that's not to say your representative, if they are the type that goes to that extra yard to do these kind of things, might not think it's appropriate for them to do something, but I'll get into that in a second. The other reason is if you grab the mental RFC that the SSA uses for the professionals that it pays to fill them out after it has trained them what every word in there means and what the legal repercussions are if they click X box, Y box, or Z box under the extent of limitation for a particular mental task. That's them with theirs. Those things are available online. I really caution against using them. 200%. I would never use it for my clients. That would be horrible. Number one, it's just open-ended. Your provider is not going to know that as they're filling it out, they are sticking a fork in the coffin of your case. And again, there's a lot of things unless they learn about it, and we can help them learn. Don't get me wrong. I have very short explanatory things for mental health providers who are the minority who are willing to do them. Most mental health providers are more profit driven. They're not going to do it for you. They might also be afraid of their own competency of being able to do it well. You know, there might be mental health license, but doesn't make them a great one. And sending them what could be a 10-page form is high risk. Again, it's probably going to turn them off and they're not going to do it. I'd say the majority. And honestly, if they don't think they can do it competently and they might screw your case, I commend them. You know, I wouldn't be doing it. That'd be like me going to hearing on a case that I know nothing about. It would be, to me, malpractice. It's one of the reasons why we don't take them on the eve of hearing. And we say, sorry, can't help you. You came to us too late. Which brings up a point, a firm plug point. If you want representation, try to get it before you file it all. You get the best job done. All the work gets done. You know, better chance of winning on initial and recon. I mean, if you're just going to grab anybody, it might not be so, but if you do your homework, find out which people work on the cases when it's at initial and recon, which ones don't, which ones just either want you to file your own application and they sit back and see if you win and they collect, or those that actually track everything, make sure things are in, send new doctor information to the adjudicator on initial and recon. A lot of us do, and a lot of us don't. So you really have to figure that out. But if you send a provider a big, long, generic RFC, mental or physical, most are going to say no. I remember a long time, I mean, even with shorter ones, most of them are going to say no. Even if ones that are we custom tailor and make our own for every single client we do this for. You can't necessarily do it productively for everybody because it's not going to be of any value. So we know how to decide when it is and when it isn't. But for the ones we do, they are all designed specifically to ask the questions relevant to this client's case. Because that big RFC, 99% of it's not going to be relevant, maybe 95%. And so here you are asking your doctor to answer all these questions, even though they don't matter. And I don't know which questions do, but to do it because I heard I should have this filled out. It's not a good idea. And I think I could see a provider getting a little aggravated at just somebody not taking, and then when an attorney does it, I think it's even worse. Not taking the time to, you know, why wouldn't you, if you're asking them to take their time to volunteer, because they don't have to fill these out, I think it's a lack of ethics not to. Because if you're asking for details about your condition for which you are paying them to treat you and share with you their information, and they got some information in here that they're not sharing, such as, you know, how many hours a day do you think you could deal with the public? And they won't answer that, you know, based on the things you're supposedly treating them for that, you know, you even prescribe. Some of them prescribe, not a therapist, but, you know, some of the practitioners otherwise. And you're prescribing him for something, but you can't say how it limits him. I mean, it's not like they're going to be hung up and tarred and feathered if the judge doesn't agree with their assessment. No, it's their personal professional assessment of the person they've been treating. So I do think it's unethical for them not to provide the details of what they know, or they should say, I actually don't know because I treat you and I collect your monies, but I really don't know what's wrong with you. Okay. Anyway, I'm going off a little bit here, but do not, in my opinion, send a generic RFC form to any provider. Either know how to draft up the right questions for your case or don't do it at all. You know, in a unicorn world, those providers have articulated properly in their medical records. I say unicorn because if I've seen that 5 times in my entire 20 years, I'll be shocked. Even the best guys, there are some really good providers out there that document well, but there's still always errors, right? So I know the errors are getting worse. I'm hearing about it more every day. More providers are cut and pasting histories from 3 years ago into the current. More and more providers are letting the default answers of all of your complaints and symptoms which default to within normal limits and no complaint, denied, when in fact, of course, it's false. That's happening more and more. And that is a shame. And I think that's something that honestly Congress needs to address probably. It would be nice if each state was aggressive about enforcing, but they're not. And not that federal law enforces very well either. I mean, we see the debacle with HIPAA enforcement, you know, it's ridiculous. The violations just go on and on and on. And there's no recourse. You know, you sent your complaint in and you showed the evidence and nothing happens. So we have other vents about that, but ideally unicorn world, your providers document everything properly, so the full extent of your limitations that you complain of, and that they then examine you and treat you for, if they find that there's, you know, medical basis in which to do so, are fully explained in the medical records. Since we're not going to get it fully, we hopefully get it sufficiently to win the case. And I can't say this for the lower level staffers that evaluate a case, but by the time you go to an ALJ, while they're not perfect, they certainly are familiar with, as a general rule, the fact that medical records will have errors. So don't freak out when you see errors in yours, unless they're so blatant, well, you know, things that would actually affect your case. Then maybe you want to write a letter asking for it to be corrected to your doctor. And while you're at it, I would CC that letter to the judge, while you still have your case going. Not that he can do it, he's not gonna do anything about it, but at least it'll be in the file that you refuted that piece and you actually contacted the doctor to do so. It just shows maybe a little bit of the intent behind the, you know, activity. So that the judge will be able to weed that stuff out. By and large, I think they're familiar with cut and paste. They're familiar with all the errors. They don't like them either. So RFC, and it's really when your own doctor does it, it's actually referred to like a medical source statement, medical source opinion statement, because it's opinion. It's not going to be taken as gospel necessarily. It's going to be vetted by whoever's evaluating to see how credible they think it is and reliable. And if it's in conformity with what their very own records say, which is why it's really important that they do a much better job on the records, because of the RFC they do has to actually say in so many words what their later summarized RFC opinion is. So if they're inconsistent, now you've just kind of stuck a fork in it as well on that basis, because now you've defeated the requirement of consistency with their own records, well supported by the rest of the, you know, medical records. So those RFCs, don't be sending them out blindly. Don't even do it. Many reasons not to. All right. Vent over. Talk to you guys later. We're coming up on the end of August 2024. I cannot believe my son started high school the other day. Which is nice to have peace and quiet.